Just three ordinary guys trying to understand the crazy world around them. We don't have all the answers, but we've got all the questions. You're listening to Just Add Bourbon with Jimmy, JD, and Brad.
What's up, everybody? This is Jimmy Don Kerr.
I'm Brad Broaddus.
I'm JD Damon.
And you're listening to the Just Add Bourbon podcast. It is a rainy Sunday evening here in the hills of Eastern Kentucky. And it's time to do another show. Got a lot of good topics this week, guys. But before we get into it, I do want to say a thank you to all the people who are listening to the show. I think, guys, we're being listened to now in 25 states. I think we've had maybe, 3 foreign countries have downloads. And we've had our biggest download week since we've been doing this past week. So, a lot of good things going on for the Just Add Bourbon podcast, and it's all because of you guys. And we definitely have to thank the local community as well. A lot of our friends and family here locally have been listening and sharing and downloading the show, and we appreciate your guys' support as well. It means a lot to us. We're going to keep rocking this thing out every week. I know we're all having a ball doing it. And, I think we learn something from one another each week and continue to show that no matter what your viewpoints are, whether it be to the right or to the left or whatever it may be, that you can sit down and have a conversation with one another and get along just fine. And that's how things should be. Guys, y'all want to add anything to that?
No, all I'd like to say is, it's been an amazing journey so far. We're only 10 shows in. The response has been overwhelming, really. Really appreciate people following, subscribing. And guys, I always appreciate people talking to me about the show, and giving suggestions and those things. Sometimes I've had people tell me things that I'm not interested in arguing with you guys all the time. You know what I mean? So that's not my style. That's not how we're going to do things, I don't think. I think part of this, what makes this great is we're having a conversation, the difficult conversations, and we're having them respectfully. So that's not this show. We're not going to do the screaming. But I do appreciate all the feedback that we've been getting. It's just been overwhelming. Appreciate all of you guys.
Brad, you want to add to that? Or have JD and I said it all?
Yeah, just the same thing. I'm kind of the outsider in the community here. I didn't know quite as many people, and I've met a ton of people just in the last couple months doing this. And like I said, we started this thing off just hoping that it would be just something to have some fun with the three of us and maybe get a few people in the community on board. And the support from the community has been overwhelming at this point. So thank you all.
And I think Brad really enjoys when you come up to him and bust my balls.
Oh, yeah, I do.
No, and it has. JD's right. I said to imagine that when we started this 10 weeks ago, that we would have been listened to in 25 different states is kind of mind-blowing to me. And because I really didn't have any expectations of this, it was just really kind of for fun. And I thought, we'll sit down and kind of debate some things. And it's turned out to be just a blast for me. So, like from the rest of the guys and what they've said here, we really do appreciate your continued support. And we hope to be back every week bringing you some good content to listen to. So, guys, let's get into it. What do you want to get into, Jay?
No, the only thing I was going to say is we got some exciting things coming up. We'll wait till next week to announce those. I know I'm pretty excited about what we got coming up, guys. So.
Yeah, no, we've got some good stuff.
I think the community's really going to enjoy it.
I think so too. And also, I almost forgot, our T-shirt giveaway. We are going to announce the winner at the end of the show. So you got to listen to the whole thing to find out who won. So, guys, let's get into it this week. Last week's podcast was a discussion only about the Trump impeachment. And, and it was kind of fresh and kind of new. And what I thought was kind of funny was I went home after we got done with the show and I hopped on Twitter. And some of the things that we'd been talking about literally were being tweeted about after we did the show. So, I don't know if Rudy Giuliani's listening to the show or not, but he was tweeting about the things we were talking about. So, we've had a week to digest. We've had some new things come out this week. JD, where are you on the whole impeachment thing now that you've had a week to see what's come out?
Well, I'm about where I was last week on the impeachment thing. I think that's definitely still worth looking into. This quid pro quo, holding government money to get personal favors is just illegal, no matter who you are, no matter what office you hold. And people are going to try to quibble about, these little detail things that may not have went as smoothly as they should have. But at the end of the day, you've got the president withholding money to get personal favors. And now he's came out Thursday and said, well, I think the China ought to look into the Bidens too. And he's trying to normalize it. That's what I feel.
Brad, where you at?
I'm still the same place. It would be funny if it wasn't so serious. But we talked about last week. Well, this is going to fall flat. Then there's going to be another whistleblower. Then there'll be another whistleblower, and it'll all end up being CIA. Right? We had that conversation. Now they're saying a second whistleblower. Now this is after John Brennan, who's on the hot seat himself, came out and was encouraging, hey, we need more whistleblowers. And I think what we're getting ready to see, because I've always been for protecting whistleblowers, but where was everybody at when you had the true whistleblowers, back over the William Bennies and these people over the last 10 or 15 years? So now you've got whistleblowers that are coming out that aren't even true whistleblowers. So what's you're going to see happen is these people get caught up in more and more of these leaks, right? Because you had James Baker from the FBI that was leaking to Allie Watkins at where was she at the New York Times. So now, as these people know that they're caught up in these leak investigations that started a couple years ago, rather than get in trouble for leaking information, everybody's going to raise their hand now and say, oh, I'm a whistleblower, and try to get out in front of the story.
Well, my point of view has actually changed. Last week I said, I don't even know why they're doing this. This irritates me. Based on what I've seen this past week, I agree with JD. I think they absolutely ought to go through with this and see what's going on. Because they're going to burn the house down on the other side. Man, I read something this week, and Brad, I don't know if you saw this, or JD, you saw this, but I read an article. I cannot remember where it was from. But apparently Nancy Pelosi's son also worked for a gas company in Ukraine.
Well, but at least she wasn't in their commercial. Oh, wait a minute.
Oh, she was in their commercial,
yes, she was in their commercial. So we keep talking about the, doing things for personal enrichment. And look at all of these people that make $174 to $200 and something $1,000 salaries.
Somehow they become multimillionaires.
And then all of their kids, they come out of school and then they're making $500,000. And we just talked about last week too, that anytime somebody's name comes up that they're going to be looking at for any reason, then they're going to run for president. And then it comes out the other day that Mitt Romney's national security advisor in the 2012 campaign sits on the board for Burisma. And then within 24 hours, then you start hearing, okay, well, they're doing some polls and raising some money and Mitt Romney might jump in the race. So again, I guess we can't go after people for anything. Who goes after them?
Well, let's not make a mistake here. What the issue is, Nancy Pelosi may have been in the commercial, but she has a personal. She can make money. Nobody here is against making money, right?
As somebody that passes the laws, she can make money that benefits her.
Yeah, that's what making money is. You can make money, but she's not using government money to mandate.
I got you. So I'm just trying to get the rules. So Trump as president can't talk to world leaders.
No.
But if the left is making money, then we're good there. I'm just trying to understand the world because the contradictions are colliding to a point now that is absolutely insane.
But it's not a contradiction. Does Trump still own his hotels?
Yeah.
Yes.
Does anybody have a problem with him making money on his hotels?
Well,
they shouldn't.
Is Trump making? But I would have a problem if Don Jr. or Eric mysteriously signed up and was on the board for a Chinese or Russian company and was making millions and billions of dollars. I would absolutely have a problem with that.
Okay, So, but you don't have a problem with people going into private industry, even though they hold a government position. They still have the ability to go out and make money privately. Is that true or false?
I believe that is true.
Okay. So, can a person take government money, your money, and say, I'm going to give you this money as long as you do this personal favor?
But that's not what actually happened.
It is what actually happened.
The guy that testified this week actually blew that whole narrative up. What was his name? Volker or
Volker?
Are you talking,
Are
you talking about the guy? Are you talking about the guy who testified in private?
He testified in private, and the minority wasn't even allowed to ask him questions.
And so then the Republicans said, "Oh, he blew that out of the water," and the Democrats said he told us exactly what he wanted. Is that the guy you're talking about?
Yeah, same guy. But that's pretty much what we hear every week.
Exactly.
But again, at what point? And this is where I'm concerned. I guess is it at what point like this keeps on, and it's going to keep happening. I'm telling you, it's going to keep happening, and then you're going to see another story. So, we had what was it that came out the other day that he was going to have a moat with alligators and electric fences and all that stuff, and it's going to keep happening. And how many times do you have to get burned with information before you say, you know what, I'm not going to fall for this every time? Because they are absolutely playing off of. And everybody is raised up now, and they're let's do this and let's impeach. And I'll tell you, there's definitely things that I would back impeaching the president. If the president sold guns to Mexico, like Fast and Furious,
right.
if we had a situation like that, absolutely, I would be on the train, because I was back then. If the president was asked to appear in court and had a subpoena, and then deleted 33,000 emails, I would be on board with supporting him,
Right.
or with supporting impeachment.
Right.
But he's having a conversation with other presidents. People talk about a dictatorship. He has been handcuffed from governing more than any president in modern history.
It's because we have a president who doesn't know how government works, guys. I'm going to tell you, I believe this is my whole heart. I believe when he was elected president, he was capable of teaching a high school government class, American government class in high school. He doesn't know how it works. He knows how business works. He's used to taking his money and bullying people and saying, I'm going to hold this $400 million from you until you do this. And now he doesn't understand that's private industry. You can do that.
But again,
it doesn't work that way in government.
Okay. He doesn't know anything.
I didn't say he didn't know anything.
But
You don't know how the government works.
hold on now. Wait, no, we're going to talk about this.
Okay.
So he doesn't know anything. He runs for president as an outsider against all of the people that do know everything. Right. Let's say he is horrible or he is whatever everybody says he is.
Right.
So this outsider that doesn't know anything runs against the entire establishment. He runs against everybody, and he's so stupid that he beats them. And then he gets into office, and he knows nothing about anything politically or diplomacy or anything, and he's so stupid. We're going around, we go to North Korea, right?
Right.
What's North Korea doing?
Nothing.
Okay, where are all the wars that we're in now that we were going to be in when he became president? Because he knows nothing. He can't negotiate with China, right?
Right.
Because he knows nothing. So we sit here and we go around the room about all these things that he doesn't know anything about. And then what has happened that you thought was going to happen when he became president for not knowing anything?
I didn't have no preconceived ideas of what was going to happen. All I know is you don't have to know how government processes work to get elected. He had a built-in brand name, right? How long have you known about Donald Trump? Because he was a celebrity. Celebrity names carry a lot of weight, right? I think if The Rock run for president, he'd probably get a lot of votes because he's The Rock.
The Rock's awesome.
You agree or disagree?
I agree.
So that he was able to get elected doesn't mean he knows how government processes work. And
right, but isn't that the point of hiring all the people around you?
Yeah, and he says he's going to drain the swamp, and he hired the same guys that's been in the swamp for years and years. Is that true or false?
So you've got all of these people that have resigned or aren't running again, right? In Congress and Senate.
Okay.
Like a crazy amount over the last 3 years that either resigned or resigning at the end of their term, right? That aren't going to run again.
I don't know.
You've got in the Department of Justice, the FBI, you've got the top however many have either resigned or been fired and they're gone. And everybody sits and says, well, nothing's happening. And again, I will say this every week. I've said this since week one. this is all going to come back to intelligence.
Right.
So the next big thing that you're going to hear everybody saying is, oh my gosh, because they've already wrote, New York Times or somebody had a story, well, he's strong-arming Australia. Australia actually reached out to them in, I think it was February. So you got Australia, then this will probably go to Canada and the UK, and it's all about the Five Eyes intelligence group. So basically, the CIA, they're not supposed to spy on the American people. It's supposed to be outward. But if they get with Australia or the UK or Canada or New Zealand, I think is the other one, they don't have laws against spying on us. So as a collective group, you're going to see that a lot of these stories go to that one intelligence apparatus in these multiple countries. Does that make any sense?
Yeah, it does. So, JD, you have said this a couple of times tonight, even last week too, like the quid pro quo part.
Right.
I don't disagree with you on that.
Right.
If it was proven that there was quid pro quo,
Absolutely.
then that's a problem.
Then what do you mean if it's proven? It was in the transcript. We all said we read. He says, "I'm going to give you this money. I sure would like for you to look into the Biden investigation." Biden.
No, that's not what it said.
There was not said anything about the money in there.
No, they didn't talk about the money in there. Volker actually said, I mean, and I read his transcript too, he wasn't even aware that the money had been held up.
Neither was, so if...
Ukraine wasn't even aware the money had been held up. Now,
Well, this is because they're incompetent. Doesn't mean they wasn't held up.
but that's not an argument for impeachment because these guys are incompetent. He might have held the money up, but it had nothing to do with Joe Biden based on anything that I can find. Now, if you can point me in the direction of where I can find that, then I'll go look at it. But I can't find anywhere that he really, based on what I read, that there was any quid pro quo.
Okay. So we held this money up, even if Ukraine didn't even realize it was held up. So he held this money up, and then he talked to him about the investigation. Now the money's released. What part of this are we not seeing that he held the money up?
Because if you're going to bribe somebody, part of bribing somebody is you have to let them know what's going on when you're bribing them.
That's what he did.
No, that part was not discussed. They didn't even know until over a month after the call that he was holding the money.
But just because they don't know, because he hadn't been in contact with them yet to let them know what was going on. So
saying, no,
listen
after
to
the
me.
phone, after the phone call, they had the conversation. They were not aware until a month after.
All right.
That the money was held up.
Right. So whether they was aware of it or not is of no
But
relevance
how
to
can
me.
you be bribed if you don't know you're being bribed?
Because you don't know you're being bribed, and I'm not saying you don't know he's being bribed, but he didn't. Why didn't he release the money on time then? That's my main question. Why didn't they get that money when they were supposed to get it?
My understanding was that he wanted to talk to him, make sure that this president that had been elected.
So when he talked to him, he said, "I want this investigation done." Is that what you're saying?
No,
Oh,
I'm
no.
saying he
He
wanted
didn't
to
say
make
that.
sure. Not anywhere that I can find.
He didn't say he wanted an investigation done.
Yeah, he did say that he wanted him to look into
So-
it, but nowhere does it say.
Okay, so
So
That's what I'm saying is like.
So he has to come out and actually just flat out say, "I'm gonna give you this $400 million if you look at this investigation."
If you wanna
And outside of that, we can't do nothing about it.
If you want to impeach the president, yes. I mean, that's what I'm saying. That's what I'm not following what you're saying. Dude, we're talking about impeaching our president. And you're making a lot of assumptions. And I'm not saying that you're wrong. I'm just saying that I haven't read that anywhere. That it was actually a quid pro quo. Anywhere.
So here's the assumptions I'm making. They're supposed to got $400 million in military aid at a certain date. They didn't get it. When he talked to the president and he said, "I want this investigation done," he did get it then. So what's my assumptions? I'm not sure where I'm missing out.
So that kind of lines up though with the whole thing. Okay, if we're going to give somebody, because remember you even questioned why we were giving them military aid.
Yeah.
So it's okay to question why we're giving them weapons and military aid, but it's not okay if the president doesn't give money until after you actually have a conversation with the person you're giving.
That's fine. Have that conversation. Here's the bait, buddy. It's on its way. Congratulations on your win. Hope you put this military aid to good use. We're going to need a base if things ever kick off over there. Here's we got a good set for a base now. Okay. And if you don't say nothing about Joe or Hunter Biden, I ain't got no problem with that. But when you're wanting to dig up dirt on the guy who's probably going to be your political opponent, now I've got a problem.
So let me ask you this.
How that doesn't
Okay.
make sense, I'm
So
at a loss.
let's play devil's advocate, and let's say that Trump gets impeached, right? So Trump gets impeached and he's gone.
Okay.
But there are still all these crimes out here
Sure.
that need to be investigated.
Sure.
So you just drop all that because you know who is going to have those conversations for those crimes? The new president.
Oh, yeah, right. Sure.
So we are going to give up our country because people are going to continue to claim. How do you ever go after anybody? That's my point.
No.
How do you hold anybody accountable?
But if you don't go after him for this, you don't hold him accountable. There's no law. If you just say, okay, this is no big deal, then there is no reason to have a law. There's no reason to have impeachment if you're not going to use it.
But that's not what I'm asking.
Okay.
I understand the impeachment, and honestly, I would love for them to take a vote and pass it in Congress.
They're gonna
Like
take it
I
out.
think that would be.
I do too, because
Awesome.
they've yet to do that.
If you think
Because
that,
they're still looking at
if
it.
you
They're not
think the
gonna do it.
OJ trial was something, I'm okay with that. What my point is you want to look into crimes
Yes.
that you think happened,
Yes.
but all the crimes that you actually have paper trails and documents that are open information, you're never allowed to look at that stuff.
No, I want to look at it. But
Well,
I want
who's
to go.
gonna look, then my question is, who's going to look at it? If the other countries say we have a crime, we want to talk to you about it, and they reach out to our attorney general,
Right.
then how do you ever go after that?
But that's not what happened, Brad, in Ukraine. They already looked into the investigation. 3 different prosecutors looked into the Bidens. And all of them came back with nothing.
That
But it's true. It's what happened. And now, so why does the president feel the need to go over and say it again and open up a new investigation? If y'all don't see this,
I don't-
pro
I can't
quo,
even-
I just don't know what else you can draw it up
But
as.
that's not the situation with the prosecutor. So but
It is since 2014. This
We're-
this investigation has been opened into
we're not going to
Bruceman.
go over this again from last week and go into that. But that's not the deal. Jimmy Don, you were sitting there talking last week about the affidavits. The guy, he was told they made him
Resign.
specifically because he was going after Hunter Biden and George Soros.
I haven't seen that. I'm not
Well,
saying it's
that's
not
what-
true. I'm not saying it's not true, but I haven't seen that. But I'm saying that you can't use government money for your own personal gain or influence.
So here's the question I have. Because Brad brought this up last week, and I think it goes along with what you're saying too. Is if you're a potential political opponent, can you never be investigated for anything?
you can, but you can't use.
By who?
You can't by anybody as long as you're not using government money as a strong card, as a spade. You're not going to get this money unless you investigate them. He's not going to come out and say that, guys. He's not a completely idiot. He's been around. He knows how business works. He knows he's being listened to. But he also, guys, Michael Cohen talked about him talking in code. Y'all remember? I know we want to dump on Michael Cohen's character. I get it. That was Trump's right-hand man. So if Michael Cohen has character flaws, then guess who else does? He knows how to talk in code, and he knows he can't come out and say that bluntly. But we can put the dots together pretty easily.
We're getting into, I'm talking about paper documents, people doing commercials. We're talking about real stuff, but then we're going to defend that with mind reading and speculation.
I don't
About
know.
talking
To
in
me,
code.
because like I said, I haven't been able to, and I've read, after last week, I went and I read the documents, I read the conversation, I read all the different things that come across, and I just couldn't find where, like what you're saying, I didn't read into it. Maybe I don't want to read into it that. And maybe that's the case. Maybe I just don't want to read that into it. Maybe you do want to read that into it. I just couldn't find what you're saying as far as a quid pro quo. I couldn't find that in there.
Right.
And I don't think, I'm not the smartest person in the room, but as far as, sitting down and reading the document and kind of deciphering what they're talking about, I don't know. I just didn't take it as any of that. It seemed like a fairly normal conversation that a leader would have. He asked them, hey, that's something you ought to look into, is this whole Joe Biden thing.
Right.
I just didn't read that into it.
Well, you can't just take the conversation without understanding that he didn't give the money over until he had the conversation. And when he had the conversation, he brought up investigating a potential political opponent. I mean, that's not mind reading or anything else. That's common sense, really.
Yeah, I just didn't go there with it.
Right.
I mean, I just didn't when I read it. That's just not where I went.
And to your all's point about an impeachment happening, or let's open up the books on everybody. I'm all for that, guys. I don't mind. I don't care if it's a Republican. I don't care if it's a Democrat. I don't care if it's Libertarian.
Really.
I don't care if he's in. Let's look at it. Let's see it. And if they're wrong, let's put them in jail, or let's do whatever the process is.
How many? We've talked about all this and got a little worked up talking about it.
I know, love it.
I don't want to let Adam Schiff off the hook because that guy has lied to the American people constantly for over 2 years now. So what accountability is there for our elected representatives?
Well, I know Trump went after him pretty hard this week. I mean, it turns out that he or his staff had actually spoken with the whistleblower prior to all that coming out. I think I said last week, I think you'll find that somebody helped the whistleblower write that report. Now, they've said that's not true, but I don't know. I mean, again, it's one of those things, I think when it comes down to it, you'll find out maybe that was helped. They were helped. And Schiff went right on national TV and said he or his staff had never spoken to the whistleblower. And you can see that clip. It's running all over Twitter right now. He's lied over and over and over again. But how do you let that behavior off the hook?
Nobody says you let it off the hook.
Yeah.
You don't. If he did something illegal, guys, there's no reason to have laws if we're not going to enforce them.
And then Nancy gets on 60 Minutes the other night, and she caught herself in the middle of admitting that she had read the transcript before they actually got it. So how did she get it? And she catches herself in mid. I was surprised they didn't cut it out. It's turned into a clown show.
It really has. I said, and that's the part. But last week I was really irritated by it, and I thought, this is just ridiculous. Why are we continuing to do this? And now, after what I've seen this week, I hope they absolutely take this thing to trial. Now, I didn't appreciate that when they questioned the guy this week, Volker, they wouldn't let the Republicans, the minority, even question him.
I don't think that's right either.
I don't think that's right.
No, and this happens both sides of the aisle. Here's what happens with those. You get time to ask these questions, and a lot of these senators use it as a berating tool. Instead of asking questions, trying to find out the information.
Right.
They want to put their spin on what's happened. They want to put that out that way because they know it's going to be on YouTube. They know it's going to be on Facebook. They know it's going to be on Twitter. And they'll say what they want to say about it. And that gets tiresome. I honestly disagree with them closing session and having the testimony. I think they should have had it open and let people...
Absolutely.
I mean,
if these people are representing us,
right,
and this is about what's going on in our world, then, I think this should be like Judge Judy. You should be able to turn on and see all of these interviews.
Absolutely.
Guys, I love that discussion. I love the passion. The passion is the same as it was last week. I think that's one, and I think this is a conversation that we're probably going to get to have for multiple weeks as we go forward. I really do. I think this is going to be interesting as it goes forward. All right, so I do want to get to some other topics. So this week, one was the Amber Geiger trial. And I know JD texted us the other night. We have a group text, and JD texted us and said, hey, she only got 10 years. Can you believe that? Yeah. And so, JD, I want, again, on this topic, I'd like for you to kind of lead off and talk a little about Amber Geiger. We know that she was a police officer. Right. She walked into an apartment that she thought was hers. There was a black man sitting there and eating a bowl of ice cream, who, from all accounts I can read, was a pretty decent guy, was an accountant. Yeah. And she shot him and killed him. Yeah. And, it's been a pretty big, story. And so this past week, she was actually sentenced, and I think she got 10 years, right?
Yeah,
So what's your take on that particular story?
Man, my heart just goes out to everybody involved. It's tough, man. For a jury who has limited knowledge of the law, first off, who, they get paid $12.50 a day, and a lot of them don't even want to be there. And to make decisions on a person's life, is this a sincere thing? Was this really an accident? Or was this just manslaughter? It's tough. I know a lot of people in the black community is really upset that another black man was killed, and, this lady admits to killing him and she gets 10 years. It's tough, man. Do you put somebody away for 28 years because they no matter what they've done the rest of their life, they accidentally... But now she took somebody else's life too, though. She took somebody else's life. That person just never gonna be around again. So it's tough to find that. I mean, they could have gave her anywhere from 0 to 99 years, and they give her 10. And I don't know that I agree with the sentence, and I don't know that I disagree with the sentence, because I wasn't there day in, day out like the jury was. I understand people in the black community being upset about it. I really do. From the outside looking in, it looks really bad. But once you start hearing the details, and like, it's tough, man. Like,
I know I heard some of her testimony, and it was pretty heart-wrenching. I mean, really, I think it broke this woman. I mean, I think, I'm like you. It's just a sad, sad situation. It ruined this woman's life. She was a police officer. From what I can understand, had a pretty good record as an officer. There was some questionable texts maybe that she had sent that maybe had some racism.
Had to work Martin Luther King Day and stuff like that.
Right.
Yeah.
And then you've got this family who lost a son, a brother, and that's just sad. I mean, it really is. Now, as far as the sentence is concerned, I don't know. To me, based on what I heard, I felt like it was probably fair. I mean, if it was a mistake. She thought she walked in to her apartment.
Yeah.
And it scared her. Now, she probably could have handled it differently, maybe called for backup. I don't know what kind of conversation she had with this man. I didn't hear that part of the testimony, whatever. But she shot and killed him.
Yeah.
And so, her mental state at the time as well. I mean, it's just tough. So I kind of thought, okay, 10 years, that seems fair to me. But I could see where the other side, where the black community wouldn't think that was fair. Right. So, Brad, I mean, you've read about it, you've saw it, and you've heard me and JD talk about it. What's your take?
I've kind of went back and forth on it when I first started reading it, and they said, well, it was an accident. She went in the wrong apartment. And,
right.
and look, I've lived in these cookie cutter apartment complexes before, and I definitely understand because I've been on the wrong floor and couldn't get my key in the right door. Right. But it is a little confusing once you open the door. I know it was dark. Once the door comes open.
Well, I think the door was open already. I think that's what concerned her, right? Was it already open?
They said it was dark. But I would think once you got in there, you would recognize that it wasn't your apartment. That's something I kind of had a question about.
Your stuff, you'd be able to identify if it's your stuff hanging on the wall.
Right, because you're probably not going to have the couch in the same place or whatever. I don't know. It was one of the things with the story for me that you've got people fighting about the story because people that don't think she was sentenced enough and are mad because she shot this guy, which is a definitely a valid conversation to have. And then you've got people where his brother hugged her in the courtroom, which was really, I mean,
that was really powerful.
That was really powerful to watch.
Until he'll never go to prison.
So now you've got people on both sides of this that are saying, oh, well, this was just the best thing ever and whatever because this happened. So the people on the other side are upset saying, yeah, well, somebody lost their life. And then they're saying, well, they lost their life, so this doesn't mean anything over here. And, the way that's two separate stories right there.
Yeah.
Right? You can agree that somebody needs to be held accountable over here or have questions about the trial itself or the murder itself and still think that's a touching story that this happened over here just because you say, well, yeah, that was great what he did and that was a show of forgiveness. You can feel that way plus have questions. Now, here's something I don't know if y'all knew. I think this just broke today, but what was the guy's name? Joshua Brown, who was one of the main witnesses.
Got shot and killed.
Yeah,
he got shot and killed today.
Yeah, I saw that. What do you know what happened with him?
Don't know anything about it. The first thing that I saw said that he was shot, I think, in the thigh and the calf. But then his attorney tweeted something earlier and said that he was shot in the head and in the mouth. I think it was.
Oh, wow.
So kind of a little different stories. So really don't know what's going on with it.
Yeah. One of the things that I was talking to a friend about this, and I was like, it's terrible, because I felt, at first, my first thought was, well, they finally put one of these police officers away for shooting a black guy. And then I seen the outrage coming from the black community about her only getting that short amount of time. So I was bouncing this off my friend. I was like, so what do you think about this? She goes, well, OJ killed 2 white people and didn't get any time.
Yeah, I mean, there's some truth to that, too. No, it really is. I mean, it's just a sad deal, man. I said, I actually did hear some of the trial, this week, or this past week, some of her testimony they were playing on the radio while I was at work. And then I heard about the brother, and what he told her was that he thinks her brother would want her to find Christ. And I thought, well, that's a strong thing. And as far as an act of, what's the word? It was a humanitarian gesture that probably all of us could learn from in forgiveness. And because that would be an awful hard thing to forgive.
Yeah, and we say things like, "Oh, I think 10 years was fair." But what if it was your brother? What if it was your sister?
And that's a great point, man, because if it was my sister that, somebody walked in and killed and she wasn't doing anything, she was eating a bowl of ice cream.
You probably wouldn't feel like 10 years was...
No, 10 years wouldn't even be close to enough. Death would be...
A little closer to it.
A little closer to what I would feel. So, no, but I thought that was a good topic to kind of at least have a conversation about, because I heard about it this week, and you had, it was just a travesty, and really on both sides. I mean, it sounds like this guy was a pretty good fella, and it was just, and maybe this was a pretty good cop, and now she's going to go to jail.
Yeah, I mean, she's a young woman,
she's ruined
31
her
years
life.
old.
She's ruined her life. His is ruined. His family. And I said, and then you see that act by this man's brother. Yeah. That was just, that was pretty powerful. So let's take this a little different direction, and we're going to talk a little movie news, or kind of pop culture. I went and watched The Joker on Friday night. Did you guys, either one of you guys, get to watch it?
No, I've not seen it.
No.
So
my son watched it, obviously.
Yeah. Chase was actually sitting in front of me. Him and his girlfriend were actually sitting in front of me when I watched it Friday night. And I want to tell you that it was an excellent movie. If you haven't seen it, you should go check it out. I don't think it is kid friendly. It is very, very dark. And it was Joaquin Phoenix will get nominated for an Oscar for that performance. Whether he wins or not, we'll see what other movies come out. But it was sick, it was twisted, it was dark, and you're essentially watching the mental breakdown of a man. And, and the Joker is a comic book character. And it's basically the prequel. So, and there is a reference to like Bruce Wayne, which becomes Batman. It actually shows, spoiler alert if you haven't seen it, but I think everybody kind of knows this happened. It shows Bruce Wayne's parents getting killed, what ultimately made him become Batman. But it's definitely a commentary on mental health, the system for people who have mental issues, medication, getting off your meds, but it is literally a mental breakdown. And it was one of the craziest movies I've ever seen, and it was very, very good. So I recommend it.
So I want to ask you a question. I want you to compare and contrast Joaquin Phoenix Joker, which I know is a prequel to where Heath Ledger would have been in The Dark Knight. So who was a better Joker? Because I still think Jack Nicholson was amazing too.
Jack Nicholson's Joker was more comic booky.
Okay.
It was more probably closer to what you would see in a comic book and how the Joker is actually in the comic books. Okay. Heath Ledger's Joker is one of my favorites. Because the Dark Knight trilogy, hands down to me, is one of my favorite comic book trilogies of all time. And his Joker being one of the highlights.
Sure.
Joaquin Phoenix's Joker is very different. It is more like, how to describe it? It's not comic booky at all.
Right. It's real life.
It is like real life.
Okay.
It is it's based around the comic book story and what a prequel would be. But it's like watching a guy. At some point in that movie, you know how you're watching a movie and you know it's good when you completely lose yourself in it, and the person that you're watching, it's like it's real.
Yeah.
That's what that movie is.
Right.
And that's how he portrays that character. And it is sick. It is twisted. It is, the whole thing is very, very dark. Like, I was expecting a ton of violence, right? So, out in Colorado, when The Dark Knight came out, there was that mass shooting at that movie theater. And so, a lot of the talk around the Joker was that they were hyping up security. They were doing all these things because they were afraid, because it was so violent, that it would, cause an issue and there would be some kind of shooting or some kind of copycat. But there is some violence in the movie, and the violence that is in the movie is pretty hardcore. It's almost like a horror film. that type of violence,
Right.
but it's all very real. There's a little bit of funniness that comes from it too. But it really is. What I took from it the most is it truly is a commentary on mental health and what can happen to a person when they're spiraling out of control. And like I said, I recommend anybody that's listening to this, go check that out, because it's an excellent movie. It's probably going to get some Oscar buzz. Like I said, I don't recommend that necessarily if they're, your child is below a certain age. It's not that. It's not a comic book movie at all.
Right.
So in this movie, is the Joker the good guy or the bad guy?
Oh no, he's the bad guy for sure.
Okay.
Really?
I mean, yeah, he's the bad guy. I mean, like I said, he just literally breaks down right before your eyes.
So you see the circumstances that give birth to the Joker.
And the reason I was asking, obviously it sounds like he's the bad guy with the way you described the movie, but the reason I was asking is, have y'all noticed a pattern in, so when I first got on Netflix, my wife and I, we started binge watching a couple shows, right? And we watched Dexter, and then we watched Breaking Bad, and then we watched Sons of Anarchy in that order.
Right.
And we got through about the third one, and I was like, are you seeing a pattern in this stuff that we're watching where you're rooting for the drug dealer, the killer, and I just there's been a lot of that over the last 10 years, and that was something for me that I was just kind of like, whoa, I don't.
Right.
I know it's just supposed to be entertainment, but.
Well, no, I can tell you that you probably feel sorry for him at points through the movie. And then there is, I don't know, like I said, I don't want to give too many spoilers if nobody's seen it, but there's something that happens. In the city, in Gotham City, I mean, like I said, it is based around the comic book, but there is kind of an uprising of the poor versus the rich. And there's something that takes place, and people start wearing clown masks all over the city. There's a riot. There's some different things that happen. And so there is, like, they're cheering for the Joker. It's like these people who are oppressed are supporting the Joker. They're supporting the darkness. And maybe that kind of ties to maybe some real life things, as far as what people see. But you definitely feel sorry for him. But then when he breaks, you're just like, oh my. I mean, like, it's really powerful. I mean, it's just, you're like, holy crap, and then the way the movie ends, and like I said, you just got to go check it out. It is right up JD's alley.
Yeah, that fires me up, man.
So it's right up your alley as far as the type of movie that you would like to see. I think you will really like it. Brad, I mean, I know as far as movies go, you're not the biggest movie guy, but I think you would dig it as far as it's just Joaquin Phoenix, dude, is sick. He's the Joker. It's crazy.
Story's that good, man.
It's that good.
I'm pretty excited, man. This year seems like there's been some good horror flicks coming out. The Three from Hell, the Rob Zombie movie. I've not watched it yet, but I heard it was just really, really good, well done, which I wouldn't expect anything less from Rob Zombie. But in 2 weeks, guys, Zombieland 2 comes out.
They actually previewed that before the
I cannot wait.
Awesome.
I cannot wait.
Awesome. All right, so last topic before we get into it, and this kind of goes back to something similar to what JD had actually done in, I don't think it was last week, maybe it was the week before that. We were talking about Antonio Brown and some of the things that NFL players do that doesn't get reported in the news. And something that happened this week, and I thought maybe would be a good thing to talk about, is Trump did sign a bill. I think it was autism care.
Yeah.
And I think it was $1.8 billion over 5 years. And it's a continuation of a bill that was signed back in 2006 by Bush. I think Obama actually signed it as well. And it kind of goes into, it was a story that I didn't see anywhere on the mainstream media. But I imagine, and this was something I did not know, that I found kind of interesting as I was looking into this, was that 1 out of every 59 children born have some type of autism.
Yeah.
And it's actually 4 times more prevalent in boys than it is girls.
Yeah. What I really enjoyed about this bill, or what I see the potentially good in it, is it really starts to take care of people that get. Before, when you had autism, all the money went to the kids. Well, guess what? Those kids become adults.
Adults.
And so now some money's going to be allocated to help those people live life after adulthood with autism. And I think that's an awesome thing, man.
I agree with you 100% on that, because that's one thing that in our lifetime, you know, this is really just become a big thing in the last 20 years. So when you think about autism, you think about kids. But now we're getting to the point where those kids are becoming adults. So I think that part's great. But Jimmy Don, you know, you're saying now that it is 1 in 59 kids is born with autism. Just like 10 years ago, it was 1 in 150. And then I think 20 years ago, it was like 1 in 60,000. One thing that I would like to see is with where this money goes, or where they go with autism, is a lot of things are about fixing the symptoms of it, right? Which is great. We've got to take care of the people that have been diagnosed with it. But everything goes towards finding the cure.
Right.
I think we need to start throwing some money at trying to find the cause.
Sure.
Because you're talking about however long, you know, everybody debates on how long we've been on the planet, right? Is it 6,000 years or 80 billion? But whatever, however you want to look at it, this wasn't something that what was the first diagnosed case was like in the 1930s or something like that. I'm not saying nobody had it in history, but there has to be something that's happening that would go from it being rare cases to be 1 in 60,000 to be 1 in 150 to now be 1 in 59, because if you look at, you know, the CDC and these different things, these numbers, how fast they have doubled, or I guess you could say cut in half. Imagine about 2 more times and you're talking about 1 in 30, 1 in 15, 1 in 6 or 7, and I think that's right around the corner. And again, it's great to do things after the fact, but I believe if we don't look at what's causing this, then it's like doing brain surgery on a heart attack.
I think that's a good idea. You know, that's a good point. And I want to look and see if the spectrum, you know, you talk about the autism spectrum, but has the spectrum changed? Where they diagnosed this guy, I'm not sure, I'm completely a fool when it comes to autism. So if I say something that's offensive, please forgive me, because I'm speaking out of ignorance. But I'm wondering if the diagnosis for autism has changed to make it a broader diagnosis. And I don't know. But I mean, it's not necessarily a bad thing either, because if people have autism or learning disability or whatever, we need to be able to detect it. I think that it's something that's interesting. I'd like to find out.
No, and I see exactly what you're saying, and I agree. I think that as far as different, the scope of the diagnosis probably broadens that out to some degree, but you see the kids that are on the extreme end of the spectrum. You see it in the schools. You see it if you go to the grocery store.
Sure.
You see these things. How often did you see that when we were in school just 20, 25 years ago? So I don't know what's causing it. But, you know, it's just the same thing. You know, you've got childhood cancer that's up however many hundreds of % over so many years. The same thing with cancer, but it just looks like all of the money goes to, we do a lot of racing for the cures, but there's not a whole lot of asking what's causing it.
Right.
Yeah, and I think that's an important question, is what is causing it, because that's a huge jump. And I was just really shocked, because I'm like you, JD, I know nothing. I mean, I know a lot of people, or not a lot of people, but I know several people who have autistic children. And I think as far as I think it's great, because I'm like you. I think it's great that when they become adults, and there's a lot of support for parents, because that's not an easy. I can't imagine that it would be easy. I know the girl that cuts my hair has an autistic son, and I know there's definitely challenges day to day. But I agree with you, Brad. I think that what is causing this, and why such an extreme jump in how, you know, the numbers as far as 1 in 59. I was totally surprised by that.
Yeah,
and then why is it 4 times more prevalent in boys than it is girls? I find that amazing too. But a lot of autistic children are very talented.
Yeah.
I think a lot of them work like in the movie industry. They have a way to the way their brain works. You know, there's a lot of communities out there for autistic people too. When they get out there in different jobs, and they have a community where they can, you know, be with each other. So I think it's important, and I think it's something that definitely needs to be talked about, because it is, you know, again, it's a good thing. It was a good thing that was done, but you really didn't hear anything about it.
And it's bipartisan too, you know, which is a good thing too.
Right. And I think aside from, I think the school system has probably has a better snapshot than anybody at this point of how that affects society if you get to 1 in 10 kids, right? If you get to 1 out of 20, obviously with the spectrum, we know that there's kids who are very highly functional.
Sure.
But I'm talking about the kids that aren't, and there are a lot of them. What does that look like in 20 or 30 years if these numbers keep going up? If every 5th or 10th person that's born is not going to be able to function in society without help. I'm not. I think it's a horrible thing. I've had a lot of mental illness in my family. It's something I've dealt that's meant a lot to me for my entire life. And that's one reason that I just want that I ask a lot of questions. I want to know how to fix it. Because we take with these mental illnesses. If somebody gets cancer, we say, oh well, bless their heart. They're
right.
sick. Or if somebody has another disease, we say, oh, well, that's horrible. If somebody's got a mental illness, they say, well, they're crazy. Throw them in a shed somewhere. And so I don't know. Just I want to see something happen.
No, I think that's an important discussion to have. I really do. And
Well,
like I said, we just wanted to bring that out, on this show because we know there's a lot of people who live in our community who are dealing with this day to day. And I'm sure that was, good news for them and something that we just wanted to bring out. All right. So let's do our last segment here, and then we'll wrap this show up. We'll do our college football picks.
does anybody know who's winning this? Is Brad still up on everybody?
No, Brad's not. Brad's
Are we
no
not out of
longer
time,
up.
guys?
No, Brad is no longer up. Brad had a rough week.
What Brad do this week?
Brad went 1-4.
What?
Yeah. Jimmy Don, however, went 4-1,
Whoa.
and JD went 3-2. So the rankings right now, I'm in the lead at 19-10 overall. JD is right behind me at 18-11, and Brad has dropped to 17-12. That Elizabeth Warren shirt or hot pepper JD is
looking good,
Brad's
man.
side. That's right. So college football this week. I mean, there were some pretty decent games, close games. I know the games we were texting back and forth last night, kind of watching the games, but mainly around the fact that one of us or two of us are going to have to do something pretty embarrassing.
You know what my favorite part of the whole weekend was? Is I was talking about, what's the score of the games, guys? And Brad was like, well, some of us' picks were better than others. Like mine were bad.
And I forgot completely who I picked.
Well, the West Virginia game started. No, the Michigan game ended.
Yeah.
And I was like, all right, I got to go back and listen to the end of the podcast.
Yeah. So, all right, guys, the games this week that we're going to pick. Let's see. The first one we've got number 6, Oklahoma, at number 11, Texas. Oklahoma is a 3.5-point favorite. I'll start on this one. I am going to take Oklahoma. JD, who you got?
Way to go on limb there, Jimmy Don.
Yeah.
I think Oklahoma too. Go Sooners.
Oklahoma.
All right, so the next one, and this is a little bigger spread, that's why I chose this one. But you got number 1, Alabama, who is a 13-point favorite. At number 25, Texas A&M. So, JD, we'll let you start on this one.
Give me the Tide.
Tide. I'll take the Tide, too. I think Tide's pretty
Yeah, I'm
bad.
taking Alabama.
Yeah, I think they'll blast A&M. Number 12, Penn State is a 2.5-point favorite at Iowa. Brad, we'll let you lead this one off.
Iowa.
So Iowa, JD, who you got?
Oh, give me the Lions.
The Lions, 2.5-point favorite.
That's a weird line, man. Why is that line like that? It shouldn't be that.
Yeah, 2.5, and they're at Iowa.
I'm with the Lions.
I'm taking Iowa. Then we've got number 10, Florida. I think this will end up, we said last week we weren't all in on Florida. And then Florida goes and beats Auburn pretty convincingly, really.
Yeah.
Bo Nix had a pretty rough day. So you got number 10, Florida, at number 5, LSU. LSU's a 4.5-point favorite. I guess it's my turn to start. I'm going to take the Tigers. I'll go with LSU.
LSU.
Go Tigers.
So,
I can't pick Florida, man. What are you talking about?
Yeah, we don't hate Florida. All right, you got USC at number 9, Notre Dame. And Notre Dame is a 10-point favorite.
I'll take the Irish.
Like the Irish. Brad, who you like?
Notre Dame.
For some reason, I want to take USC, but Notre Dame played much, much better with Georgia than I thought they would. So I'm going to take Notre Dame on that one as well. All right. Anything else on the football spectrum we want to talk about? JD was off this week.
No, I wasn't off this week.
No, that's right. Y'all play Thursday instead of Friday.
Thursday,
That's right.
yeah.
Played East Ridge. How'd that game go, JD?
We won immensely, 36-8. It was 36-0. We put a JV in. They scored. Played well. Got some players rested. I think we set 6 starters. Let them rest. And
Everybody getting healthy?
everybody's getting healthy. Got a huge district game this week.
Yeah, who we got? Shelby Valley?
Shelby Valley's coming to town Friday night.
And they're one of the better teams in the district, too, right? They're
Yeah.
up there with you guys.
This top 3 seeds in this district, it's going to be a slugfest. So, that starts for us Friday night. And then we got to play the team that beat Shelby Valley next week. So, next 2 weeks is very, very...
So it's important as far as the season goes.
Oh, yeah.
That's cool, man. I wish you the best of luck. I will be there to root you guys on. And then the Cats play Saturday at Arkansas. I chose not to put the Cats in the pick this week. I just didn't, because apparently Lynn Bowden's going to be our quarterback. He's been taking all the first-team reps. And, they're saying Sawyer Smith will be back at some point. But for now, Lynn Bowden's going to be our guy. I think we'll probably beat Arkansas. I don't think they're very good. It is Jared Lorenzen Day. Brad, you and Tiff are going to the game, aren't you?
Yep, we're going.
I'll be there to root the old Cats on. So, guys, that'll finish up the show for this week. We got to tell who won our T-shirt. I was getting ready to wrap this baby up and not announce the T-shirt winner. So, the winner of the drawing was Bobby James. Bobby, thank you for liking JD's post and our YouTube page. And so you are the winner, and we'll get that shipped out to you very soon. So, guys, wrap this one up this week. Check us out on iTunes, on Podbean, and if you really want to support the show, go to the YouTube channel and subscribe, like, share, whatever you're picking us up on. We appreciate it. I think you can find us on Spotify as well. But as we always end the show, no matter how bad your week's been, no matter how bad your day's going, if you just add bourbon, it'll get a little bit better. Talk to you guys next week.